Maria, Esperanza, Cristina, Garcia, FRASCO. Kompleto. Magandang umaga. Magandang umaga sa iyo.
Mayong buntag, magandang umaga sa inyo po at sa lahat ng ating audience and the members of the media who are here.
Napakahalaga ng papel na ginagampanan ng turismo. Pinas, meron tayong kalihim ng Department of Tourism sa pangunguna ni Secretary FRASCO na talagang napabuti ang turismo dito sa ating bansa. And just to emphasize the importance of tourism in our country, in Southeast Asia, Philippine tourism has contributed the biggest share in the country's gross domestic product. Among Southeast Asian countries, ang pinakamalaking kontribusyon sa GDP ay ang Philippine tourism. Ay, palakpakan natin muna ito. Palakpakan natin 1 trillion pesos or about 78 billion US dollars. Can you imagine that? In Southeast, kung bubuin yung ASEAN, gross domestic product, ang pinakamalaki pa rin share na contribution sa ASEAN GDP ay ang Pilipinas compared to other countries. And all of this have become possible because we have a leader in the person of Secretary FRASCO. Congratulations, Secretary. Lahat ng ito. Because all this happened in the recent years when you took over the Department of Tourism. Ano ba yung sikreto? Marami pa akong sanang sasabihin eh. Maraming awards na natanggap. Ikaw ay maraming posisyon na hinawakan, hindi lang dito sa ating bansa, kundi globally. But ano yung secret na dinala mo sa DOT at ganito ang nangyayari sa turismo sa Pilipinas?
Thank you for starting this morning with such wonderful news that reflects the robust performance of Philippine tourism. I'm very honored to be here and very happy that Philippine tourism has really elevated its status in Southeast Asia. The President, from the very beginning of his administration, clearly articulated to the nation that tourism is a priority. And with that, he rallied the government, agencies from national to local, as well as the private stakeholders to come together to address the challenges that confronted the industry, especially and immediately after the pandemic. In bringing me in, a former mayor in Cebu, whose main economic driver is tourism, the President was very clear in his directive that we need to be able to strengthen the foundation of Philippine tourism if we are to be competitive in the ASEAN and globally competitive. And that is why we rolled up our sleeves and did a proper due diligence. First and foremost, examine the pillars of tourism that needed intervention in the short term, in the medium term, and in the long term. And the most prominent intervention we found was infrastructure. Our roads that lead to our tourist destinations, our airports that receive our tourists, our seaports that connect our islands across the country. With that, we crafted the National Tourism Development Plan from 2023 to 2028, the primary objective of which was to introduce infrastructure, connectivity, and digitalization into the tourism landscape. This is followed by a focus on ensuring that we enhance the entire tourism experience Because what we've learned from the pandemic experience, from global trends as well for travelers post-pandemic, is that people are seeking positive experiences. People are willing to spend more and to stay longer if we are able to provide them with a convenient and comfortable journey, and one that brings value to them as travelers. So enhancing the overall tourism experience also became our one of our main focus. In addition to this, the President wanted that we introduce the Philippines to the world from the lens of fun and adventure, of which we are very strong, but also most importantly, from the strength of our identity as Filipinos. That is very well manifested in our culture. Our food, our festivals, our songs, our dances, the stories of the communities that we have all over the country that have not yet been fully told to the world. So then we crafted programs that focused on opening up the eyes of our travelers and our tourism stakeholders that there are offerings in the country, in our popular destinations and in our emerging destinations, that can be diversified. And diversification, of course, leads to more markets, new markets, and more spending from our tourists.
Well, tourism, Secretary, means jobs. And in 2023, 9 million Filipinos were employed in the tourism sector, and that's about 18.7 million of our percent of our total employment. Again, kudos to the Department of Tourism. And because of your initiatives, of your leadership in the Department of Tourism, recently the country again was put on a spotlight because the country achieved several awards in the recently held World Travel Awards. Can you imagine garnering so many accolades, leading Asia's leading dive destination, Asia's leading beach destination, Asia's leading island destination. 2019 was supposed to be the banner year in Philippine tourism. As far as the hotels were concerned, 2019 registered one, if not the highest revenue as far as revenue is concerned. But Philippine tourism has surpassed the 2019 receipts already. Will there be more? I mean, as far as tourist arrivals is concerned, international tourist arrivals, will we hit more than 8 million? Kasi ang target nyo lang 7.7 by the end of the year. But you are just short of the number, and many of the tourists come in the last quarter of the year. So what is your forecast, Secretary? Will you even this year?
Well, Sen, first of all, thank you for informing our audience, our media, about the recent awards for the Philippines. We are very grateful for all the hard work that has been put in, that's now being globally recognized. This is the product of collaboration among our government agencies, convergence with private tourism stakeholders, and really no less than blood, sweat, and tears, day and night, of confronting the challenges of Philippine tourism and trying to prevail while maintaining our deep sense of love of country and always trying to be authentic to our brand, to our nation, and our identity as a people. In terms of our numbers, I'm very glad that you mentioned visitor receipts. Because really, these are the numbers that matter. Our visitor receipts represent the money that comes into the coffers of our economy. It is the livelihood that continues to uplift the lives of our fellow Filipinos, generate employment that feeds Filipino families. And therefore, the focus of the Department of Tourism has been how to allow our tourists to stay longer, and we're finding now that they do, from an average of 9 nights to now 11 nights, and how we can encourage our tourists to spend more. And we're finding now that they are, with our visitor receipts having had a recovery of over 111%, constituting over 3.36 trillion from 2023, and as of this year, surpassing our month-on-month visitor receipts comparative to 2019. Now, we have pegged the arrivals for this year at 7.7 million from our international markets. However, we consider this a moving target. On one hand, we do have tailwinds in a sense that there is robust interest in our domestic tourism performance, as well as from our markets all over the world. On the other hand, we do face headwinds, especially in terms of visa policies, entry into the country, which, comparative to our ASEAN neighbors, are not as liberal as we would want it to be. We do also have infrastructure challenges in that our airports are still currently in the process of improvement and PPP, and we very much welcome the President's initiative to speed up and to prioritize the expansion of our airports. And then we have the availability of seats coming into the country, where comparative to our ASEAN neighbors, we stand at around number 6 in terms of the number of seats, over which we don't have any control. We are being very realistic about the targets that have been set, and we are preparing for these challenges that we continue to handle. So I don't want to predict that we're going to exceed the target, only that we are working as hard as we
Tutulong po
can.
sa ating turista ito po pagsasaayos po ng ating mga airports, especially po dito po sa NAIA, Secretary.
I understand that the private proponent that will be taking over our NAIA terminals has very globally competitive plans for the airport. And so we anticipate a great turnaround in terms of the infrastructure, the experience, the seamlessness, and the introduction of digitalization. We're actually working with them at the moment as we are launching in a few months our transit tours in relation to our Philippine hop-on, hop-off bus tours. So in the airports here in Manila, we will soon have the offering for our transit passengers who have a few hours in the country before they go to their onward destination. And they'll be able to purchase a ticket and go around the offerings of Metro Manila and get to know the country in just a number of hours. In addition to that, we're also working with a private proponent in launching a medical tourism and wellness lounge in our airports that mimics our neighbors who have very popular medical tourism products. So we're all very excited and optimistic by the privatization of our NAIA terminals. Sabi po ng Philippine Statistics Authority, as of 2023, yung count nila of the direct employment in the Philippines in terms of tourism is pegged at 6.21 million Filipinos. According to the World Travel and Tourism Council, which considers both the directly employed and indirectly employed in tourism, over 9 million na po yung na-employ ng tourism in 2023. The good news is that throughout this process of counting tourism employment, we have engaged NEDA as well as the PSA and advocated with them that we need to be able to expand our count of tourism employment, not only to those that are directly employed, but also those that are employed in the entire tourism value chain. Kasi ang dami pong nagkakaroon ng trabaho dahil sa turismo, not necessarily by way of a formal contractual agreement with hotels and accommodations, pero kasali na rin doon yung ating mga transport operators, pasalubong makers, suppliers ng mga goods, no, sa ating mga accommodation establishments. And so that conversation with NEDA and the PSA has led them to insert an expanded question in the first quarter labor force survey for 2024. And according to them, as far as tourism is concerned, over 16 million Filipinos are now employed by tourism in 2024. So
16?
16 million for the first quarter.
Ma'am, ano po yung mga lugar? Baka meron lang tayong idea kung ano yung mga lugar na mas dumami yung trabaho ngayon in terms of tourism.
Yes, actually the count is nationwide, no? And the comparison in terms of the increase in tourism numbers is also broken down per region. So mabibigay po namin sa inyo yung datos na iyon. And basing on our tourism performance per destination, yung nakikita natin na top contributors in terms of arrivals, receipts, and employment. First, yung NCR, because they have the airport that leads to our destinations in this area and across the Philippines. Second, yung Cebu, that is followed by Batangas and Rizal area. And of course, we have Aklan, home to the world-famous Boracay. I was just there yesterday. It's beautiful.
In terms of tourist arrivals po natin, at sino-sino po sila?
Yes. South Korea continues to be our number one international market. They have already contributed over 1.1 million rather to our international arrivals as of today. That is followed by the United States and also Japan. And we have China, Australia, Taiwan, Canada, the UK, Singapore, and Malaysia.